For our city. And I thought if you're looking at our consultation document or our submission form, you'll see that's how we've asked the questions. But maybe, Maxine, would you like to, before we get any questions, talk about what you think the priorities are and what it means for you as our elected member?
Thanks for that, Julie. Coming into council as a very first term councillor, it wasn't always easy to understand where the ideas came from for projects and things. And so I was really pleased to be able to see that there was a document well before this 10-year planning process that set out what the ambition was from our residents, and it's very much in line with my thinking really about building a great community, making sure that we've got some funding available to ensure that there is good community connections happening. We've got a great investment coming into our city. We've got businesses, jobs for people, and a great way to be able to get around our city, not just in a motor car, but quite a few other priorities that sharp-witted residents will be able to see very clearly in this, that we're prioritising some money in there that looks after pedestrians, our streets that we have, making sure that the footpaths are great, that there's biking and public transport options for people to be able to get around with. And so, those are awesome opportunities that I'm really happy to get in behind.
That's really great. Thanks, Maxine. I see we've got our first question from Daniel. What's the overall rate increase?
Oh, good question, Daniel, because that's another really important part of our city planning. Because just instead of thinking about how we're going to spend all the money, we have to think about where it's going to come from, and ratepayers are a very big part of that. So we need to think about what's affordable for our ratepayers in the long term, and about what we're able to deliver on in terms of those aspirations that I talked about earlier. So we're proposing in the first year of this 10-year plan an 8.9% rate increase, and that's split into two parts really: a 4.5% rate increase and a 4.4% increase for a targeted rate, which will help us to be able to meet the government's expectations around our waters and change around that, and also our planning document, our district plan document, and so we'll need money and to be well resourced and enable us to meet those expectations from government. The things that are changing that we don't necessarily have real ability over, and that we'll have to make a really good response to. So after that first year, it'll be a 4.9% increase for each of those years after that.
Thanks, Maxine. And I really like the way that we're now trying to make it more transparent for our community, that there are some costs that council's incurring. Sorry, I'm just going to throw something at the people behind me who are making noise. The costs that council incurring that we want to be more transparent with the community that some of these costs council has to do. It's not sort of a choice option. And that's
Yeah.
really what the compliance rate about, isn't it?
Yeah, too right it is. And that we'll be facing those challenges like other councils right around the country will have to. And, you know, we want to be in the very best place to be able to respond in a way that is safe for our communities and that gives us the best value for money as well.
Great. Thank you. Um, the other person, I thought actually, I've just realised we haven't introduced ourselves to anyone else who's just joined at the moment. So, Sean, do you want to lead off and introduce yourself? And
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Judy. My name's Sean Murray. I'm one of the general managers at Hamilton City Council, and I'm responsible for a fairly eclectic mix of activities and functions of council, which includes our interest in the Hamilton Airport, our contribution and coordination with Hamilton Waikato Tourism, the generation of major events and management of event sponsorship for the city, and also the partnership arrangement we are working with on a private trust who is primarily funding the build of the brand new Waikato Regional Theatre. The final area I've mentioned that's within my portfolio is H3 venues, which most Hamiltonians, I hope, know about. And that includes Clausen, Seddon Park and FMG Stadium, Waikato. Whilst the grouping of activities under my portfolio can appear to be the fun stuff, it's got a serious purpose, and the serious purpose behind all of that is making Hamilton a better place to be, a better place to live, generate social community interaction, but also at the same time generate jobs. So much of the work we do through the airport and tourism, major events, and the activities of the venues is very much economic based in terms of generating new business opportunities for the city, generating more people coming to our city and spending their money with us. So that gives you hopefully a bit of a background.
great. And Maxine, would you just like to introduce?
Yeah, kia ora, everyone. My name's Maxine Vanustin, and I'm a Hamilton East Ward councillor and was elected in 2019 to represent your views and help you to be able to get your ideas up to council. So really enjoying that work, and this is a really big part of it, this 10-year plan. So, you know, we are encouraging people to be involved. Julie, I see there's a question in there. So maybe we'll get to those shortly.
Yeah, let's do that. So one of the questions, I'm sorry, and I'm Julie Clausen, I'm the Unit Manager of Strategy and Planning. So a staff member on council. So one of the questions is, how do our rates compare with other councils?
Oh, that's a really good question. And it's really pertinent when you're looking around the rest of the country to be able to see how do we fit in and are we asking too much? Well, the question actually is no. We've done some comparison with a number of councils that sit around us in the Waikato and some others a bit further afield, Rotorua and Wellington, Auckland. And, you know, we look like we're somewhere on an average of a little bit below $3,000. And if you go over to Raglan, then you're going to be asked to pay closer to $4,000 for the same average rate. So when we look at those 10 different councils, we're right down the other end of it. And so, you know, we're offering really good value for money for Hamiltonians. And, you know, I'm proud to be able to see that.
I think, yeah, that's a really good response. Thanks, Maxine. Another question that's come up is, and I'm sorry, Maxine, you're going to miss answer this one again.
It's just me. What's happened to Rob? I'll have to text him.
I know. How much does council actually take notice of what ratepayers say?
Oh, look, I'm really glad to see that question because, you know, it's so important that the decisions that we make reflect the desires and aspirations of our residents. And so Mayor Paula has been really clear with both council staff and elected members that she wants this to be the most consulted document of any, and that we're opening up opportunities for you to be able to have your say And I mean, this opportunity is one of them. There are other drop-in sessions that people can get along to. And there is at all of our libraries a printed copy and a response form in order for you to be able to get your ideas in. We've made it really simple for you as well. Oh, thank you, Julie. We've made it really simple for you as well, because if you're not up to getting around our city to look for that document, then get online and look for the opportunity there at futurehamilton.co.nz. That way you're going to be able to have your say as well. Then once the consultation period finishes on the 7th of April, we'll be collating all of those responses. You can do it online, you can fill in a form. Then we're going to ask you on that, through those channels, whether you want to come and speak to us personally, because there's nothing better than backing up what you're putting down on paper or on the internet than by coming in and looking us in the eye and holding us accountable for taking your views into account. It's not to say that we will be able to respond to every one of those ideas and comments, but certainly it's a really great way for us to be able to get an overall theme and to be able to balance those and measure those against the viability and what we're asking for in this 10-year plan and what we've put up for you to look at.
Julie, perhaps if I could add a comment on that question from a staff or a management perspective. I mean, for the time that I've worked for council, I've got to say, and having come out of the private sector, I've got to say elected members over the years that I've been involved are always listening to the community. They are always taking into account an issue that might be raised by groups or individuals, and they are always challenging staff at council on those issues that are raised. So don't ever think that people just ignore you. The challenge, however, is that not every idea can get a consensus or an action, but you would be surprised how much time is actually taken up by feedback through our elected members to management on issues, big and small. So I'd want you to be assured that you are heard, but understand that not always is the correct answer that you want necessarily available.
Great, thanks, Sean. And I was actually at a community meeting this morning at Puketi House, and someone asked us, I was with Councillor Angela O'Leary, and someone asked us, what happens to the submissions, and I said, and Angela both said at the same time, sort of, the elected members read them all. So it's really good that, people understand that what they are saying is actually read by the elected members. Another couple of questions. We've got some more here. So Ingrid's asked, have we considered the cost versus benefit of charging for parking around the fringes of the city? Sean, do you want to maybe talk about some cost?
Yeah, look, it's not my particular area of council, but I'm happy to make some comments. I mean, at the end of the day, parking is a very, very challenging issue in the central city, and also increasingly on the fringes of the central city, as people need to park and walk in. And it's a very, very costly part of council's activity is, provision of parking and management of parking. Obviously, there's a strong desire, where possible, for people to be able to use public transport, and council is putting in an enormous amount of work into encouraging people to change the ways with which they commute in and out of the CBD or in and out of the city, so that we can alleviate parking and other traffic congestion. But there's no simple answer, and there's no easy answer to resolve that. Clearly, there's also the interface with the private sector, private commercial operators who provide parking for staff or provide parking for public as well. And it's very, very challenging to get that balance right, but it is a serious issue. And the public transportation really has to be a solution that needs to be pursued much more aggressively if we can. But having said that, I know that it is difficult for people to be able to work around public transport like buses and so forth. If there's more demand for buses, more buses will come on. And I think this is the challenge we have with people, still wanting to drive their car. The frequencies don't quite work, whatever reason. But we need that demand to kick more in to actually help solve the problem.
And if I could just jump in there too, Julie, in this 10-year plan proposal, you'll see that there is the potential for the city to be gaining $1.6 million per annum for fringe parking, for commuter parking in the fringe of our city. We've identified a couple of spaces, areas where that could be, and there's more discussion to be had really about refining that further. But that, gives Hamilton or Waikato people the opportunity to drive into our city to their place of work, to be able to park, to be able to do that in an honest way rather than relying on a 2-hour car park and taking your chance that you won't get a ticket. To be able to do that, to contribute to the coffers of our city, and to be able to make sure that we can then use those funds in great ways like improving the public transport system around the country, around our city. So have a look for that in the document, please, Ingrid, and make a comment on it. Give us your ideas too about the ways that you think that we could improve that proposal, and any other ideas that you might have that we haven't yet thought of or should explore further.
Yeah, and thanks, Maxine. Just to remind everyone, particularly, there's lots of spaces in the consultation, either online form or the paper form, for you to write your other ideas. And we really want to hear what ideas people have. You don't just have to stick to replying to the options that we've asked about. Please tell us what you think would work better or differently. That'd be great to hear. So Marie has asked, are we concerned that rate increases might be too much for a lot of households to afford?
Yeah, affordability is really critical for a great number of households actually, and that's an important consideration whenever we're thinking about putting up the rates, and so that has to be taken into account. We do have opportunities through our rates rebate schemes to offer a discount. The government also provides an opportunity for low income and low asset rate payers to be able to have a refund as well. So we have double that, and that can be up to 1/3 of your rate. So if you're in that bracket, have a look at that. Be sure to ask questions of our city number, our call centre number, and just see if you fit into that category, because we don't want to see people unfairly burdened, but we all want to know that we're paying our share, and when we need to provide for the growth and the vision for our city, then we all have a responsibility to be able to do that. Thanks for your question though, Marie, I appreciate that.
Great. And the next question, Sean, would you like to answer? It's from Matthew. Are we going to get more music events at Clausen's Oval or FMG Stadium, Waikato, after the successful 660 concert? And also, how much profit would have H3 made from that?
Okay, well, I'll answer the first part of that question. Yes, look, we do absolutely intend to get more outdoor music events at the Clausen's Oval. We have been targeting a concert like 660 for a few years, and it's been really tough to get it here. And we finally managed to get the support from a major New Zealand promoter who's been outstanding to deal with, who really came to Hamilton with an untried, untested formula for an outdoor concert at the Clausen's Oval. And for all intents and purposes, it was a real success. It ran really well. We sold out. It was a full house, 25,000 people. In hindsight, maybe we should have sold 30,000 tickets, I'm not sure, but we are definitely committed to doing more. But we won't overcook it. We want to make sure that we don't, overcook or saturate the market. And so at the moment, if we can get 2 concerts like that a year, I think we'd be very, very happy. We're always trying to get additional activity at FMG Stadium, which is purpose-built for rugby or rugby league or football. But it's quite difficult in terms of some of the restrictions that the makeup of the stadium has for certain types of events. So we actually started our conversation with 660 about it actually being at FMG Stadium, but the costs of putting overlay to protect the grass or the turf for rugby was prohibitive. But in actual fact, the oval at Clausen was probably a much better proposition anyway, and we were quite excited by that. So yeah, the answer is yes, we want more, but we'll be cautious to make sure it's the right type of event. In terms of how much profit H3 made from that, I'm not telling. It's a commercial arrangement that we have with the various show promoters and everything else that we have, and we need to protect that confidentiality to respect them. But I will say to you that we're very happy with the outcome.
Excellent. Thanks, Sean. Now, have we got any more questions? Yes, we have. So next question is, how did we come up with this LTP and the projects to consult on? So shall I just lead in with that one, talking about, we started a conversation with the community quite a while ago now, back in December last year, must be a bit earlier than that. We went out to the community and asked them, what do they love about Hamilton and what would make Hamilton better for them? And so that sort of had a really great conversation, and what came out of that was that there were 5 key priorities that the city really have told us is really important to them. So they're a city that's easy to live in, and that's actually meaning a city that's easy to connect around, to move around, that you can get from one place to another place safely and easily. So not always having to get in your car, so there's paths, bikeways, scooterways to get around. The second one was a city where our people thrive. So that's about having a city that Sean talked about at the beginning that is vibrant. We have businesses who want to come here and employ people. We have already great educational opportunities here in our city, and that's reflected by our city having a really young age as a city with a number of students in it. And just generally a city where people feel they have the opportunity to be themselves and share their culture and diversity. The third one is a central city where people love to be. It's really important that our city has a bit of a beating heart or a hub, and so we're looking at a lot of things about what will bring people into our centre of our city, and that's not only work employment opportunities, but also some of the great things that are happening with the new theatre being developed and other opportunities for businesses in our city. A fun city of lots to do, and that's really about providing some of those things like our sports fields, FMG stadiums, and our key attractions like the zoo, the museum, and the Hamilton Gardens. And lastly, a green city. And a green city means lots of things, not just actually like trees. It actually means a green city, and we have clean water. The water our wastewater that goes back into the river is well treated and clean as well. The stormwater, the rainwater that runs off across our land and eventually into the river is also clean and doesn't pollute our river. It also means looking at our natural spaces, our biodiversity, and making sure some of the unique Hamilton things like the gullies and Waiwhakariki are really well looked after, and so there's quite a lot of money in that space. So that's sort of the background of where we've ended up. Maxine, would you like to add anything to that story?
Well, I mean, the really great thing about that document, actually, our vision for Hamilton, Kirikiriroa, and here is a copy of it, is that it gives us a real basis by which to be making financial decisions for our next 10 years and to set up some expectations that you can have and rely on us to be able to deliver on. And especially in a time where there is other regulatory change happening around the country, and being a city that's growing and more people coming into, real ability for us to be able to balance the whole of our decision making around those great priorities. So you'll see a list of projects in that document, and that's what's going to be the actions that deliver on what your view is and vision is.
Great, thank you. And that was a question from Maddie. So the next one we've got here is from Robin. Hi, is there protection for all the lovely historic homes in Miramar Street? I would hate to see them pulled down to put up apartments. They are very central, so I worry they are at risk of being bowled.
You look, there's several councillors on council, well, a majority, I would imagine, that are wanting to protect what we've got already. And, you know, it's been a really big theme of this plan is to be able to look after currently what we have in a broader sense. And that means about $3.7 billion over the next 10 years doing that. A part of that, it will be a review of our district plan. And that's in response to the National Policy Statement for Urban Design that government are proposing. We'll get the opportunity as Hamiltonians to be consulted on that as a separate stream of work, but that's going to be setting out the protections for what we have in terms of our heritage and character parts of the city, because I can think of other parts of the city that I'd like to protect as well. I live in Hamilton East, and there's a good deal of beautiful homes and areas that we would want to look after there too. Same with Frankton and other parts of our city. So Central City too, there's some great buildings and iconic things that we will want to look after. So what that district plan review will allow us to be able to do is to look at different parts of the city, find where we might want more density, where we'll want to protect what we've got currently, and then we'll after a period be able to have that out to you for your consultation again. So keep an eye out for that later in the 10-year time frame, but within the next year or so.
Great, Robin. Great. Thanks, Maxine. So yeah, Robin, keep a lookout for that district plan. So the district plan is what sets the rules about how many houses we can have per sort of square metre, and so it's where people can take down existing houses and put it in apartments. All those rules are covered by the district plan, not the long-term plan. I know it's a bit confusing, but keep a lookout for that, and you can always pop us an email at ltp at hcc.gov.nz and ask us to put you on the list where we notify you when those sort of consultations come out for the conversation, so we can make sure you're kept informed. Jessica's asked, will there be more trains during the weekend in the future between Hamilton and Auckland? Sean, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, thank you for that. Well, let's hope there will be. I think the key thing to bear in mind is that the new rail service between Hamilton and Auckland that will be starting shortly is a trial, and it's a during the week trial. And once again, a bit like my comment earlier on about public transport, if people support it and get on board, a pun intended, then that will put the case for services in the weekend. It's as simple as that. We need people to use it to demonstrate and provide evidence that that there is a demand for the service out there. And if that demand is high there, you can be pretty assured, based on the mood of our current council, that there will be a strong lobby for weekend flexibility as well. But that will take time to emerge. If I put my major events hat on, I would like nothing better than for us to have a Chiefs game or an All Blacks game at FMG Stadium and have all the supporters that come to that game actually arrive by train. Come in from Auckland, get off, easy walk to FMG Stadium. It'd be fantastic.
Great. Thanks, Sean. So Sean's asked a question. It's great that you're upgrading the zoo and the surrounding area, roads and paths and native area. So this is about the work we're doing at the zoo to make a shared entrance between our Hamilton Zoo and Waiwhakariki, which is our natural area there. And Sean's asked, are there any other projects on the west side of the city? So I know that there's quite a few projects in relation to some of our gullies on the west side of the city, so they're included in that. But also, the west side of the city sort of starts from that the Western Town Belt. And we've got a couple of projects that we are looking at in the Western Town Belt. Does Sean or Maxine want to talk about any of those?
Yes, so one of those projects is to have a look at the future of the Founders Theatre. There's a proposal to demolish that and to turn it into a park, and along with the some other private developments that are happening on there. Kote Pacifica are doing, have got a beautiful project with a whale and other activities on the corner there where the bowling centre used to be. And so that whole area can become a beautiful green space for us to enjoy as a city. And as we encourage higher density in our city, there's going to be the real need for that to happen. Not only that green space, but there are the micromobility and cycling proposals with funding that's in this proposal of around golly, 70 odd million, and that'll be spread across both the east and the west, so that we can have an easier way to get around, that there's good footpaths as well. That's another really large spending item in our 10-year plan, and that all goes to that $3.7 billion worth of spending that we'll be doing and looking after the things that we have. So you know, making sure our footpaths are safe to get around on, that that we're looking after the holes and the tree roots that might be coming up in it, and that you can easily, you know, get about your neighbourhoods.
Great. And of course, we've got the really exciting, you know, opening of the Peacock Community.
Of course.
That whole new area sits on sort of our west side of the city, and there's now the big roundabout's just been completed. I'm starting to open up that land. That community was doing a lot of work to make sure we put really good natural spaces in that space, and also, you know, facilities for the community. So it's going to be really exciting over the next 10 years. Next one is from Mary. Please make the city a safer place to walk, cycle and scooter in. This would benefit both the environment and individuals' health.
Oh, I like where she's coming from, Mary. That sounds like it's going to fit really well with the kinds of plans that we've got and that we're talking about. Certainly have a look at the Eastern Pathways, which looks to be able to connect up 23 of our schools along the Peach Grove Hukanui roads, and make cycling for kids safe to school. So if you've got safe cycleways, then that means you can scooter there, you can walk there. We're giving those kids the autonomy to make those decisions, to be able to get to school and back again in a really safe way. And of course, that's great for their health. I think it's also good for the appearance as well, actually, because I know what the stress it is trying to get kids off to school, get to work on time, meet your other commitments, and do that on a road that's chock-a-block with cars. So if we can get our kids out of the front seat of the car, then that's going to be a really great way to be able to get motorists to work.
Great. We're just about at the end of our questions. Sean, is there anything else you'd like to add before?
No, look, I don't have anything to add. I'd just like to reassure people that the long-term plan that's been presented has gone through a really rigorous process, and there has been an enormous amount of debate and an enormous amount of research, and there's been a high degree of empathy that has gone into the plan and thinking about what is the best options we have for the city going forward. And so it's really important, this message obviously through this link, this webinar, is we want feedback. We really want people to tell us what you think and how you feel about things. We've already done an awful lot of that, but it's important that before we do that final sign off, that you have your say, and be assured, as per a question earlier on, you know, we really do want to know what you think.
Great. Thanks, Sean. So just the last question is, where can you find more information and have your say? There's lots of places, so I'll quickly run through those. So the first place is go to futurehamilton.co.nz, and that's our website. That's where you can see all the information about what we're proposing. There's lots of links there to more detailed information, but also the links to making a submission. So you can click on the submission form there and just fill your submission in electronically. If you're not a fan of that, there's also hard paper copies of our uh, Shaping Hamilton Together document and the submission form relating to that. You can pick those up from our libraries, you can pick them up from the community houses, also, of course, here in council. If you want us to post you one, just pop us an email at ltp@hcc.gov.nz, and or just call our call centre and they'll pop one in the mail to you. Yeah, so please, there's also lots of events going on in the city where you'll see a stand saying Future Hamilton or Shaping Our City Together. Pop up to the stand and have a chat. Most our elected members are at those stands and ready to talk to people. So please take that opportunity as well. But most importantly, please tell your ideas to us. It's really important that we hear what you want for your city. Maxine, I'll leave the final words to you.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Julie. Thanks for your support on this call today and for your time too, Sean, and your great answers. It's really great to be having awesome staff around us in order to be able to put these processes together. So I doff my hat to you and thank you. I guess a couple of things that I'd like to mention before we finish is that it's not just council money that's on the line here. We've got lots of partnerships and really critical partnerships that contribute as well. And Wakakotahi, I can think of, is an obvious one. Most of the roads and cycleways that we're building is half their money as well. So I mean, that's your money in a different format, really, through government. So thanks for them. And iwi. Iwi are a great partner. They have very similar goals and aspirations to us as a council. And, so our ideas align really well. And then there's the philanthropic community as well, who are really important to us and being able to deliver on some of the projects that we've got in place. The other thing to mention is that the 10-year plan isn't the only thing that we're consulting on at this time. We're also consulting on the revenue and financing policy, the development contributions policy, and the growth funding policy. So when you go on that website, you'll be prompted. Don't leave it just up to specific groups to put their feedback in there. We want your feedback on those policies as well. And even if you don't want to respond to all of them, pick out one or two of them that you can get your ideas across. So thank you, and can I just assure you that I will be taking into account every bit of feedback that we get in order to be able to finalise the decisions that I make, because I'm your representative, and that means a lot to me, and I have to be able to have some robust information to be able to rely on for that decision making. So get it in now. Give us your ideas. Don't be constrained by just what we're asking you about. Think broader, think creative, and get all of that down on paper to us before the 7th of April, and that way your voice is being heard. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.